Thank you, Jill, and again, welcome everybody to today's webinar. Again, I'm Barbara Levin. I run our marketing and customer community teams here at Safety Chain Software. I'm being joined for today's event by Derek Cobb, our VP of Food Safety and Quality Applications, and Dave Detweiler, our VP of Customer Solutions. Our agenda today is going to first address supply chain vulnerabilities that many of us are facing, some of the technology challenges that companies face with their supply chain vulnerabilities and keeping the supply chain safe. We're then going to look at how safety chain management in general can help you keep your supply chain safe. And then we're going to look at the Safety Chain software solution, SafeChain for Food, and Dave's going to go over the inbound production and outbound capabilities of that solution. And then we're going to have Dan run us through some compliance scenarios using safety chain management solutions, and then we'll open it up for your questions. So with that, let's go down to the first part of our agenda, which is supply chain vulnerabilities. Now, as all of us know today, the food supply chain is now global and will continue to become increasingly global. At a food safety technology supply chain vulnerabilities conference last week, and three trends came out really for the reasons for this. One, today's consumers want to eat what they want when they want it. You know, we want peaches in December. And we don't want any more for that peach, even though it's out of season. So to countries around the world for economic reasons as well, to get the food that consumers want and get it at a price that they're willing to pay. Food supply itself is also going to become a challenge. At a recent GFSI conference, there was a statistic given that by the year 2050, which isn't really that far away, we have to produce as much food per year as we've produced all the years in recorded history prior to that year. So we think about that amount of food and the fact that it's going to have to come from every inch of the globe. Food safety and quality assurance becomes an absolute huge challenge, as we know all of you are facing. The regulatory, non-regulatory, and customer-driven specifications and requirements, that in and of itself is a challenge. The challenge to get all of the tests and test results analyzed on time is becoming extremely difficult. It's difficult to control and communicate ever-changing standards when requirements such as customer specifications or the daily new changes to regulations like FSMA are communicated. It versus, depending on your product, your speed to market, the shelf life of your product, it's really forcing those who grow and produce and sell food, whether it's through retail or services, to sometimes have to compromise between hold and release versus ship and pray. Now, like I said, everybody understands it. And we have to get past that because every vulnerability is a threat to your market value, your market brand, and the confidence of both your retail and services customers and, of course, the end consumers. The cost of these vulnerabilities is staggering. The recalls, retrievals, and rejections cost the food industry $7 billion a year annually. Those costs include having to remove goods from shelves, losses that sometimes take place, the loss in sales, which comes with loss of customer confidence, cost of repairing public relations, and inventory replacement. It's a very expensive challenge, the vulnerabilities. We need to look to technology to take care of and address those supply chain vulnerabilities. And a lot of technology out there, and a lot of people have already put some solutions in place. And as with any industry that is starting to adopt technology, the more we adopt, the more we start to see some new needs come out. There's a lot of different systems that many people have, some more, some fewer, in an FSQA enterprise. One of the biggest problems is that those systems don't talk to each other. I know some sisters that don't talk to each other, but we're talking about systems. They don't communicate. There's a problem with suppliers at the onboarding and adoption. So people are getting information from suppliers in many formats. You can see diagrams. Some of it's manual, some of it's email, some of it's on spreadsheets. Suppliers are concerned about the cost of having to provide their food safety and quality information through technology. There's issues with onboarding suppliers, getting them to adopt it, and then there's firewall issues. Getting that information from a supplier who might be in another country or even another state or part of your enterprise, getting that information to the FSQA folks, what winds up happening is there's still extensive manual processes, the errors that come along with those. Lack of compatibility between these systems also is prohibiting trending, really being able to understand your performance over time and the ability to get immediate results that can allow you to take timely corrective actions before they become too costly. And then there's the affordability of technology affordability in what is traditionally, as we all know, a low-margin industry. It's really created a scenario where most technologies are reactive versus proactive. They're seeing problems after they happen versus trying to prevent problems from happening in the first place, which is we're seeing the emergence of a new breed of technology called safety chain management. Safety chain management is exactly what it's there. It's there to enforce food safety and quality compliance along all of the points in your supply chain in real time. So the key foundations of safety chain management are real-time data collection, real-time analysis of that data, whether it's safety testing, whether it's quality attribute testing. The ability to alert people, the right individuals, in real time so that corrective actions can begin before they become too costly, and of course have that ability to trend. Its very nature, because data is being collected and analyzed in real time throughout the chain, this means that these solutions are cloud-based. It makes it much easier for all of the participants in your safety chain and your food supply chain to work together. This is a secure cloud. It's not you can see all of the information. Only people that need to see it and are identified and configured to see it. Makes these solutions very scalable. You go through mergers, you go through activity that might double the number of customers, double the number of suppliers or products or SKUs, and it makes them affordable. Simply in a safety chain, results and data, they're being sent and received via computer, mobile information, even directly from testing equipment. All that safety and quality data is analyzed in real time to specifications. Notifications to dashboards or remote devices are also in real time, so the appropriate people can take immediate corrective action. Also has all of that information, then time and date stamped. It's all in one system. It all talks to each other to allow you to really do performance trending. And Dan will be going through some of these scenarios in a little while. You can really think of safety chain management as sort of your food safety and quality smoke alarm in the sky. It's helping you get the right information to the people in the fastest manner possible so that you can proactively prevent problems before they start, prevent non-compliant products from coming in or going out, versus actively trying to figure out how the problem started and how much it's going to cost to repair the damage. And with that, I'm going to, excuse me, with trouble paging down here. I'm going to turn it over to Dave now to tell you a little bit of information about our safety chain management solution, Safety Chain for Food, and then we'll have Dan walk us through some scenarios before we take your questions. Dave, I'm going to turn that over to you now.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara, and thanks everybody today for attending the webinar. I just wanted to walk you through a couple elements specific to the Safety Chain platform and maybe a little bit more detail before Dan walks through the scenarios. As Barbara mentioned, our platform actually fits in very into organizations in three specific areas, right? And you're seeing that on your screen. Inbound production and outbound is what we've labeled it. You may use some different terms internally. The thought is that at any step in that process in your supply chain, we have some capabilities in assisting with, as mentioned, testing and requirements and things that you might be going through as an organization. Very important note here on this slide and for everybody on the call, this platform is very much modular, right? So the ability for you to see a portion of this, or as you hear the webinar today, to say, oh, well, supplier compliance and CS management might be very important to me, or maybe just the document management from a supplier standpoint. And the platform has that ability to be, kind of pulled apart, and it's standalone very nicely by itself. We're big believers in you might have systems in place today that are functioning very well, so let's leverage those systems, to Barbara's point, possibly integrate those, receive data from those systems if possible, and then pull it all together. These here, very important for everybody on the phone. I'm sure business cases and ROIs are important when you're looking at software and technology, and it's something we're very proud of. You can see a couple examples on the screen here of areas where the ROI comes into play. We've seen ROIs as quick as months from deployment, but definitely within the first year of deployment with hard dollar cost savings. And it doesn't even have to come from the fact that we've saved one recall. It could just be the hours spent and some of that manual intervention and so forth. So very proud of ROI, and I think a number of organizations can see that as we walk through the different areas here. So you'll look at the first piece, inbound. If we look at that a little bit closer, the ability for this solution to actually track supplier compliance documents. You might have annual documents, annual certifications, HACCP programs from your suppliers that you need to receive, organic certificates, things like that. The solution has the ability to track and monitor those documents, but also has the ability to notify off of those documents. So as things coming up on being due, I hear from organizations that we talk to that this has been a sheet fashion, or you might have even a library of documents that sits out there, but someone actually has to go in, check those documents, and then generate a notification to that supplier. Our system will do that automatically without any human intervention, and also provide those reports to you, suppliers that might be laggards in the process, suppliers who haven't given you some of the pertinent information. Can even produce real-time reports on suppliers where you might not have documentation, and you want to make sure that you have that documentation before you're receiving shipments. But taking it a step further with COA and spec management, the ability for our system to actually maintain your specifications and what you're expecting from those certificates of analysis. We can receive those certificates of analysis electronically and actually verify that against your specifications, right? The ability for us to take data and verify it. And based on that verification, if something is borderline or something is out of specification, we can notify individuals, right? So just like the ability to say, hey, I don't have your allergen certificate, and you generate a notice back to that supplier, COA comes in that's out of spec, very quickly you can notify, receiving, for example, the people actually receiving the product, or maybe notify someone in the FSQA department within the organization, or even the supplier. Completely configurable. If you think about gathering all this together, you can then have key performance indicators on suppliers. You can see supplier trending. You can see supplier scorecards. How's everybody doing for a specific supplier for a specific product, right? And we can break that down very easily. The inbound area, and if we move along into the platform to the center portion, which is production, see a couple different features here as well, but the underlying message is the same, right? The ability for our solution to generate out internal tests, so maybe your internal laboratory, or if you're using external accredited laboratories, the ability to generate out notifications that a sample is coming their way, a swab is coming their way. As that communication goes out and lab results are gathered, our system has that capability to receive data, for example, again, back from that accredited laboratory and compare it against your minimums and maximums. It can notify on borderline if something is out of that range. Again, real-time notifications with texts and emails. All the way through, internally as well. We can provide even an entry screen for your laboratory that's internal, or if you have equipment that can push data out, we can sweep data and bring it into the system and do the same exact thing. Compare it against your min and max comfort zones and your specifications and write those notifications. Taking a step further, not just the testing of it, but you might have HACCP programs, maintenance schedules, citation schedules. We have a test-based scheduler, meaning that we can schedule tests to go out to your QA department, to go out to your maintenance folks to say, hey, by the way, it's time to, there's pre-operational test that needs to be done. And the person can actually complete that test, meaning they can come directly to our solution and complete that test. We've created apps for BlackBerries and Droids and iPads. Individuals can actually access the app and enter in specific data that they might be capturing. We've integrated with handheld devices or even cooler nets that can produce temperature results out, right? So we can sweep that data again, compare it against your min and maxes or the items that you're expecting. If things out of range or out of realm, bang, real time, text message, email notification. But then take one step further, you can now see trending of this. You can see statistical analysis of this. You can see all of this data up into one place, inclusive of electronic date and timestamps of when those tests are done, as well as electronic signatures. This piece, if I move along one more portion there to the outbound side of this, the ability of the safety chain platform to actually handle customer compliance features. You might have different customer-specific requirements that you want to test against, and we can do that. Product testing, right? The ability for our solution to combine all of this data and then generate out certificates of analysis to those customers. It can generate a notification to someone internally that that product is being ready to be released. And then once again, so they can do alerts and text messages and emails, that it can roll up all that data, trending and statistical analysis. So a customer asks you about their specific product they're producing, you very quickly at your fingertips can do the reports, real time to say, here's what it looked like for the past 4 weeks, and here's what the tests were, and here's why we're shipping it, right? So all of that helps, and it gives you a little bit of background about the safety chain for food product and platform. Barbara, I'm going to hand it back to you and move over to the next.
Great, thank you. What we're going to now is go through some supply chain scenarios and how safety chain can help you. Obviously, for time's sake, we kept these scenarios fairly simple, but we'll show you in this first one how it's probably happening today and how that can be different with safety chain. And we'll take you through several additional scenarios that just show how this would work with safe chain management solutions. Dan, let's start with this first scenario. We're going to start with the receiving dock.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Let's start with this first scenario here. We've got a truck with raw ingredients backing up at the manufacturer's receiving dock. The dock quality technician records temperature on a smart configured tablet form, such as an iPad. The HACCP critical limit is 40 degrees. The sample is at 48. Let's talk about what might happen today and what could happen with safety chain, Dan.
How do you describe that? And thanks, everybody, for joining today. So today what could happen is that a dock technician finds a non-compliant situation, a HACCP violation, ships inbound to them. They find a number of temperatures that clearly are exceeding the HACCP critical limit. They must then track down the QA manager to notify that person what's going on. They also need to contact the dock manager to stop the unloading of it. In the meantime, you've got workers and forklift equipment, they're standing still. You can idle part of your dock because of this. It certainly slows down your operation. So if a determination has been made, then let's say the shipment is rejected because it is, after all, a asset non-compliant situation, then all documentation must be manually done, entered into your system. You've got to do prevent measures, and this affects your bottom line. You've got lost dollars, and if there's a break in this communication or there's an error of omission, then this product does not meet your HACCP program, could enter into production. So with chain, it's very different. We have real-time analysis of the sample or samples, and we immediately notify not only the technician who's performing the task, but also the dock manager in real time to put shipment on hold and immediately release the dock workers and the equipment that are assigned to unload this particular truck. Simultaneously, an alert to the food safety manager can be made, who can confirm the corrective action, in this case, reaching the load of out of compliance material. The system, and this is really key, the system automatically documents your corrective actions, your preventive actions, so that all the shareholders are alerted, and the documentation is all done in real time. So the bottom line here is compliance is enforced, delays of significance in your dock operation, and prevents non-compliant raw materials that can contain into your process and into your finished goods.
Can we look at another scenario, a field inspection scenario, and let's just this time go through how this would look being done in an environment where safety chain management is there.
Well, let's take an example of harvesting apples. And there's a pre-harvest specification form that needs to be filled out, and this is being done in the field, so it's a remote location. And among the things that are checking are evidence of infestation, color, size, a variety of different things that could be checked. In our system, in this mobile form, once it's completed, that's automatically sent along with a picture if you choose. In this case, if there's an invasion, it can immediately the quality assurance manager and the device, whether it's a text or an email, manager can then determine this crop or this part of the orchard is out of compliance for the intended product, and this trigger immediate alerts telling the inspector not to harvest the field. So what's the bottom here? Clearly enforcing compliance and ensure that the customer did not receive out-of-spec finished goods.
Great, thank you. Let's look at one more, finished goods production. Why don't we go through a scenario where we're looking at net weight per retail bag that gets shipped to a customer.
This is a pack-out scenario, and let's say we are producing a 1 pound net weight package, and it's going over some automated weight equipment. The weighing equipment can send data to us in real time, and we can analyze that data. And clearly, if within specification for that product, we can further along the process of generating an automated COA, not causing delays or lag times in your process or throughput. If, however, the real-time analysis shows that the weight is not in compliance and is underweight, the QA manager can receive an immediate notification, and then simultaneously corrective actions can occur as well. An alert can be sent to the line supervisor to iterate immediately, and in the specification, and the QA technician can be notified of the non-compliance and place the product that has already been packaged on hold, and do this as the data is recorded so that it minimizes the potential for rework. It can alert the quality assurance and production folks to relabel the lightweight product that is on hold into alternative packaging where the weight does meet the compliance as well as all the other specifications. So the bottom line here is inventory is saved with minimal rework and cost and hopefully the customer, again, doesn't receive a spec product.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you. We will come back to this quote from our customers in a moment here. We absolutely know that busy would probably be a vacation day for most of you folks because you're busy beyond belief. So for those of you that actually do need to leave here at the half-hour mark, I'm going to give you some follow-up information right now, and then we'll come back to your questions. You will get an email within 24 hours. It will allow you to download the slides and the recording from today's event. If you have any follow-up questions for myself or Dan or Dave, you can send those to Jill at jbender@safetychain.com, and she'll make sure that we get those communications from you. Come to our website often. We've got many more educational events coming up, different guest speakers. On Tuesday the 22nd, we're going to actually be doing a demo day that you can register for. We can actually see a live demo of the product, and of course there's a lot of information, additional information on our website. You'll also be getting a pop-up window when you leave this event where you can give us some input about your thoughts about today's event. You can suggest topics that you'd like to hear speak on, and because we know that 30 minutes is short time to get into a lot of detail, you'll also have the opportunity on that form to request things like pricing information, a much more in-depth private demo for your FSQA team, or our calculator to help you build a business case. So with that, we're going to come up full screen here, and we're going to take your questions. You can, for your questions, you see the box on the lower right-hand side of your screen. Simply enter your questions there and hit send, and we'll take those. And we will stay on, for a little extra time if we need you to answer your questions. And it looks like several of you have already put some on there. Dave, I have a question for you from Shelley. Shelley's asking, how can the system help me keep my suppliers in compliance when customers' finished goods specifications change on a daily basis? Does the system help communicate spec changes to suppliers electronically?
It absolutely has that capability, right? So one place to update specifications and the ability to produce that back out to your suppliers, for example. It can do that throughout, again, the supply chain. So if you're looking, internally to monitor those specs, suppliers walking around with a printed out copy, sometimes gets old, but our system does have that ability to communicate out those new specifications, and again, to be utilized then in the real-time verification. So one place to update it, it can, if you will, trickle out to the suppliers, to your internal folks, to make sure everybody has the latest and greatest, updated specifications. Inclusive of that is the ability for us to then, track that historically. So if you wanted to look back and see what historic specifications were, we can do that as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, absolutely is the answer to that question.
Great, thank you. Dave, Charles is asking, do all of the stakeholders need to install the software before they can be kept on alert? So maybe we can talk a little bit about installation versus cloud, and then address how stakeholders are onboarded.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. There's nothing to actually install, right? So Barbara used the term the cloud, or it's called a hosted solution. So the only thing that people need to have on their machine, or the ability to have on their machine, is to actually get out to an Internet Explorer window, right? So access to the internet. There's not actually anything installed on the machine, and what that allows us to do is to leverage our customer community and continue to enhance the platform. So you're always going to receive the latest and greatest of the platform and so forth. But there's absolutely nothing to be installed on the machines locally. There's nothing for IT departments to actually install. It's not what people call in-house or licensed software. It's something that you actually just access via the internet. And then there was a follow-up question there, or a second part of that question of how do people get notified. Additionally, we're going to use their email addresses. So, how they're being communicated with today, or possibly telephone numbers if you want to generate text messages. So again, nothing to be installed there. The only area that you would ever install anything is if you're using, an iPad or an iPhone or a BlackBerry or a Droid phone, and you actually wanted to use a data entry app that we've created, meaning to actually capture the data, and that's a free application that we make available to our clients. So there's nothing actually to install for stakeholders to be engaged in the communication of the platform or to log out to the platform, and it becomes very simple in that fashion. Makes it easier.
Great. Steve is asking, and Steve, I encourage you to attend the demo day because we can show you this more. But at a high level right now, can you talk a little bit about the trending and in what ways is the information in the system used for trending?
And this is actually configurable by client. So a lot of times we'll look to the client and say, what kind of key performance indicators are you looking to track? But when a simple example of trending, we talked about suppliers. Receiving those certificates of analysis, regularly. Now all of a sudden you have this, pool of data that traditionally, in-house might live in a spreadsheet or in an Access database. And what our system will do with that aggregation of data is actually produce it out into a dashboard and show you, how well a supplier has done over the past 3 months, over the past year. Very, very same way trending can be used into your QA programs internally, right? Mm-hmm. You can look back at the tests. You can see how you've done over a period of time. Also, if you look at, simple things like temperature monitoring, over the day, over the week, over the month. So the thought is that we can pull all of this data together and then produce it back out in trends that are, again, completely configurable by client for the key performance indicators they might want to be wanting to track.
Sure. Dan, William is asking how the solution can help companies be more audit ready, and asking specifically more audit ready for customer audits.
Well, that question, it's really quite simple. In today's world, we manage things a lot by pen and paper, and we transform that pen and paper work into electronic database that is accessible through your computer. So your audit information is ready all the time, and as Dave mentioned earlier in this presentation, we have the ability to capture data information, automatic electronic signature information, which gives much greater efficacy to the records that you keep for quality attributes and food safety information and data.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. A question from Steve B. Dave. For smaller food producers, are there variations of this program? In other words, he's saying we're a small company that can grow into all of this, but for what we're doing today, we don't need this entire suite.
Yep.
It really is the scalable beauty, huh?
Yeah, that's right, and we get that, and we think actually from that standpoint, our product functions very well, and that's part of the reason that it's a hosted platform, so it's extraordinarily scalable, right? The platform has been deployed in 21 countries and all that kind of fun stuff. But when you're talking about a smaller operating unit or a smaller organization, you might just say, hey, it would be really good if we could capture our asset program electronically and use that task scheduler for that. Absolutely. The system can be pulled apart, if you will, broken apart, and just one section will stand alone very nicely to handle that one area. And then as you grow as an organization and as it makes maybe more fiscal sense to deploy additional modules, you can absolutely phase those in as appropriate. So to answer the question, it is. We think that it's very cost-effective for all sizes of organizations, and it is put out in that fashion, right? So depending on the scale and the scope, that affects the cost, obviously.
Right, and depending on number of customers, suppliers, products, modules, we can make this system very affordable. Dan, Charles is asking, How can the software assist in the implementation of other food safety management systems or standards, such as ISO 22000?
Great question. ISO 2000 is a GFSI program, and among the things you have to do SOP, Standard Operating Procedure verifications. We can put our task schedule to work to send email alerts to you or anyone who's responsible for verifying SOPs to get those done on time, on schedule. And again, the records that are generated from those verification activities have an automated time and date stamp as well as electronic signature, again, making those records, verification tasks and records easily accessible to your auditor, whether it's regulatory or non-regulatory, in this case, GFSI requirements.
Great, thank you, Dan. I'm going to ask you to scroll. I do not see any additional questions. I know I'm one of those people that the minute I leave a webinar, I will think of questions. So if you think of anything there, Jill an email at jbender@safetychain.com, and please take a moment to fill out our survey. We really want to make sure that these are valuable 30 minutes of your busy days. So we'd love to have your input on the webinar, and you can also make other requests. Jill, do you see any questions that we missed?
Hey, Barbara. There's one, Jill, that maybe it just came directly to me, too. It actually mentions a question around, does the program pull information from a data entry database, such as an AS400 or BPCS?
That must have come to you privately. Go ahead.
Yeah, the answer is absolutely, right? And you know, for any IT people on the phone, we don't want to say that it pulls data from anywhere, but it has the data to receive, or has the ability to receive data in very flexible fashions and formats. We've done that with many of the major ERP solutions. The concept is that our solution is flexible enough to receive data from anywhere, and we're big believers in that because we don't want to have duplicate databases that, you know, you have your AS400 that's a system of record for certain information. That's great. Then keep that as that database of record for that information, and we'll use that information or leverage it, you know, only batch transfer or even real-time data flow. It all really kind of revolves around the capabilities of, you know, out that data. But the answer is absolutely, and yes, we think that that's a key component of pulling all these systems together, as Barbara previously mentioned.
Great. Well, did you see anything else?
I believe we've covered all the questions at this point. A couple people have asked for the slides and recording, and we will absolutely be sending those to everyone that has registered and attended today's event. You should be receiving that early tomorrow morning.
Okay, well, with that, thank you, Jill and Dan and Dave, and for all of you especially. Have a good morning or afternoon. We hope to see you online again at another Safety Chain event. Thanks, everybody.